called Things I Learned Last Week by William Stafford. Ants, when they meet each other, usually pass on the right. Sometimes you can open a sticky door with your elbow. A man in Boston has dedicated himself to telling about injustice. For $3,000, he will come to your town and tell you about it. Yates, Pound, and Eliot saw art as growing from other art. They studied that. If I ever die, I'd like it to be in the evening. That way, I'll have all the dark to go with me, and no one will see how I begin to hobble along. In the Pentagon, one person's job is to take pens out of towns, hills, and fields, and then save the pens for later. That's what he learned last week when he wrote the poem. So again, just kind of think about the things that you learned last week. So here are some things I learned through the Guild, through working with my colleagues sitting here, and some from my professional reading, and from my students. I was, for a long time, taught 10th grade English. So I learned that my 10th graders, when given choice about their story, really care about their writing. And maybe they care a little bit about revision too, when it's their choice. I learned from English teacher author Liz Prather that providing students tools to generate ideas to write about also pays off. Simple questions like, who do you run to when you're scared? What do you believe is true even though you can't prove it? And why do you live where you live? These springboard writers into engaging stories. I also learned a lot about peer coaching and collaborating with these educators in front of me, and what it's like to be part of an effective team member. And I learned that one of the most important gifts we can give each other is to gain clarity about our intentions and about our instruction when we talk to each other about our teaching. And we can reflect on our students' growth as learners in that process. I learned from Zaretta Hammond too. Some of you may know her book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. And she doubles down on intersections of learning that include culture, pedagogy, how we go about schooling students, the dynamics of race and class and equity in connection to brain-based learning. And then Hillary and Kelly asked us during one of our last Guild meetings, to reflect a little bit. We had some time to reflect on the learning that we've done. So I learned that when charged with writing a keynote speech that will last only 1 minute, I can do it. That when given a moment in time to reflect on my learning, through reading, through research, through collaborating, and trying things out as a teacher, that my 60-second keynote came out like this. And this was the original version. As I set a vision for myself in this work I'm doing with adult learners, I'm honoring all that I consume working with teenage learners. I learned to practice inquiry and set intention. I discovered some values to anchor my work this year. 2 values, justice and understanding. I learned to ask myself some questions. Some hard questions, and some questions about whose answers require research and reading and talking and visualizing. I learned that I'm committing to understanding what equity and access really look like in our classrooms, in our district. I learned I like the word disrupt. Cornelius Minor helped me frame my work as an educator. He says, our work is more evolutionary than revolutionary. He also says, systems don't change because we identify them. They change because we disrupt them. I acknowledge that I did a lot of things right as a classroom teacher. I've accepted that. I reflect on the things I would like to do over, and I'm learning to accept that. Thank you.